It is the day of reckoning for Mr. Rat Poison Squared himself. Warren Buffett for years has bashed Bitcoin. In 2018, famously calling it Rat Poison Squared. Whatever that means, well, it is the day, ladies and gentlemen. It happened on the evening of December 30th, 2020. As you can see, Berkshire Hathaway's here. Total market cap, very respectably, $538.72 billion. Well, in the wee hours of the evening on December 30th, 2020, Bitcoin, as we all know and as we're all celebrating, hit an all-time high. Also hitting an all-time high in terms of market cap in the $543 billion range, thereby flipping Warren Buffett's company. Now look, I'm a big fan of Mr. Warren Buffett. I'm obviously being a little bit facetious here. I think the man is arguably the world's best investor. But when it comes to his track record with technology, he's out of his league. So he's great in terms of traditional technologies, traditional manufacturing sector kind of stuff, and he's built up an empire that's irrefutably successful, no doubt about it. But he was wrong when it comes to Bitcoin. He didn't have a grasp of blockchain. He kind of just was way too dismissive of it, in my opinion. So that's something that we're celebrating today. We're celebrating the fact also overseas that Serbia is legalizing digital asset trading. We're celebrating the fact that CZ Binance and Binance as a website, as an exchange, they are covering anybody via their Seifu fund that was affected by the Cover incident. As we covered a few days ago, Theta Network is in the news in a big way, reaching a new all-time high somewhere in the $1.80 range. We're going to discuss how you can set up a node of your own, specifically an edge node, to start watching and earning T-Fuel. We're also going to cover the fact that now we have GreenPro Capital coming out with additional information as to how they're going to fund that 100 million Bitcoin fund. They are up again in the markets, as is MicroStrategy. This continues to be the trend. Anybody associated with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is being rewarded in the traditional market sectors. Van Eck is moving along with a second proposal for an ETF, an exchange-traded fund for Bitcoin. Kudos to them. We're going to take a look at the numbers, the year in review, Bitcoin's performance versus other assets. There are some other assets, company stocks, for example, that performed better than Bitcoin, but very few of those are in existence. And as a result, everybody's obviously observing the same story. We understand the success. And as a result, here on CoinDesk.com, the number of people holding lots of Bitcoin is on the rise in a so-called rare whale spawning season. Guys, if you like this kind of content, Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's take a brief look at the market to kick things off. As you guys know, about 12 hours ago, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high in the $29,200 range. This is kind of after a little bit of up and down volatility, but it's nice to see that, yes, indeed, we hit 29K with confidence. It remains to be seen whether or not we're going to hit 30,000 today by the end of the year on this New Year's Eve, but we'll see. Guys, to put things in perspective, Bitcoin obviously was a star performer this year, despite the context of COVID that has affected us all in one way or another. And if you recall back in March of this year, so March of 2020, Bitcoin dipped below $4,000. I mean, that's just something to keep in mind. It's an unbelievable rise that we've seen since then. More than a seven-fold increase in just 1 year since those lows of mid-March, since that March 13th, the Friday the 13th, and March 14th, since those very dark events. Just in the last 22 days, Bitcoin has surged about 22%. Again, as I mentioned, reaching a new all-time high, both in terms of its price and in terms of its market cap. It's also up over 300% on year-to-date returns. And I've also reported on this before. I'm also very happy to note that Ethereum is looking very strong, now up above $730, with a dominance of its own that's starting to strengthen, currently 10.9%. Keep an eye on Ethereum, guys. It's only approximately at about half of its previous all-time high, so keep that in mind. In a relative sense, I think it has tremendous upside and tremendous potential for gains in this upcoming altcoin bull cycle. All right, so Mr. Rat Poison Squared. Well, it's time for Mr. Warren Buffett to eat some crow, because Bitcoin now has reached a new all-time high above 29,000, and Bitcoin's total market cap has surpassed that of Berkshire Hathaway. We're here on ZeroHedge.com. And at $539 billion, the largest cryptocurrency surpassed the market cap yesterday of finance giant Berkshire Hathaway, the CEO of which, Warren Buffett, previously, this is a couple years ago now in 2018, called Bitcoin rat poison squared. And that's all there really is to this story for the time being. At the time of this recording, we don't have any statement, any press release by Warren Buffett. Of course, once that materializes, if it does, we'll cover it. But there's really nothing more to say for the time being. We'll see whether or not he comes around because, of course, there are many, many other mega institutions that have come around, including JP Morgan, including Citi, including so many of the investment houses out there to a certain extent, even some of the individuals in this space to a certain extent. People like Nouriel Roubini has somewhat come around, certainly not totally, but somewhat. So we're now kind of waiting on some of these outliers, the Warren Buffetts, the Peter Schiffs of the world, but it's certainly satisfying and validating for us in this space to observe this development. We always knew it would come. Maybe, I personally thought it would take a little bit longer, if I'm going to be quite candid, but we always knew it would come. So it's a good feeling to be able to observe what's happening here. This is, I think, summed up very well by Robert Breedlove. Accumulating Bitcoin is a unique action that benefits both yourself and everyone else. A perfected store of value maximizes both individual wealth and collective harmony through demonopolization. I am extremely grateful to be a part of the global digital renaissance. Hashtag 2021. Icon is in the news. We talked about their performance the other day. It's looking very strong as a project lately. And here we have some Icon news. Korea's leading enterprise blockchain technology company, Icon Loop, they announced that they're developing a blockchain-based mobile driver's license under regulatory sandbox approval in South Korea. And South Korea's Ministry of Science and ICT granted Icon Loop permission to test its decentralized identity or DID technology on mobile driver's licenses with the goal of better preventing forgery and protecting personal data. Good development here on blockchainwire.io. We'll link to that in the description below. In other news here, we have other, I suppose, regulatory news, but this time out of Serbia. So the Serbian government will now permit the issuance and trading of digital assets and related services under a law that went into effect just a couple days ago on the 29th of December. So in a reversal of previous policy, the Serbian government will now permit the issuance and trading of digital assets and related services, again, under a law that went into effect a couple of days ago. And for the Serbian members of our Altcoin Buzz Army, no doubt you are celebrating. I'll link to this in the description below, sec.gov.rs, presumably in Serbian. I certainly can't read it, but we'll link to this in the description below for those who can. CZ Binance is in the news. His exchange is always looking out for its users, as I was gushing about the other day. So Binance, he says, will utilize the Binance Seifu Fund to recompense a total of over 10 million US dollars. That's going to be distributed in 8,171,634 BUSD and approximately 2,500 Ethereum. So that's being distributed to recompense affected and eligible users. In case you haven't heard about it, to compensate those victims of what happened with the Cover incident. So Binance here, updated Cover incident resolution plan. You guys can read more about that on Binance.com. You can also learn more about that entire fiasco. We covered it in the other day's video. Also in the news here, Binance, explore and share your Binance 2020. $20,000 in BNB to be won. More details on Binance.com, hashtag Binance 2020. Okay. Let's now discuss Theta Network, which, as I mentioned a moment ago, is now again approaching a new all-time high. Was about $1.80 a little bit earlier this morning, so setting a new all-time high. A lot of people are excited about Theta. It's not even the new year yet. This is a project with just tremendous upside potential. And in my opinion, a lot of room to grow. Check out our previous video. We did a comparison and quantitative analysis on how it would look if Theta really gave the YouTubes of the world, the Netflixes of the world, a run for their money. I think it's quite feasible and realistic for Theta to go not only to $1 billion market cap as it recently did, but to 5, to 10, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, or even 100 billion as a proper decentralized alternative and competitor to some of the established streaming services out there. But that's beside the point. Check out that video if you're interested. Here's what's in the news today. I guess from yesterday, December 30th. Check out the official 24/7 NASA TV channel on the decentralized Theta Edge network. And you can also set up your own Edge node and start watching and earning T-Fuel here. Some more information about that on setting up an Edge node. The Theta Edge node is the latest evolution of the Theta Edge cacher. So the Edge node allows you to relay video streams over the Theta network and earn T-Fuel in the process, providing support to Theta.tv and other upcoming video platforms using the Theta network. With the latest update, you can now also broadcast your own video streams and have them distributed over the Theta Edge network. This allows you to stream entirely peer-to-peer without any centralized CDN involved. Related is this tweet from Gala Games at Go Gala Games from yesterday. Just under 7.5 hours until the great Gala, an epic battle in the Splinterlands starts. Watch it on Theta TV and the Theta network. Bitbender Brink and the Cariel Len and Splinter Bard will be emceeing. Get ready for NFT winning esports action. You're going to see many such events, guys, such as this, such as the Splinterlands being hosted on Theta TV. This is only just the beginning. This is going to become more and more economically feasible and appealing and incentivizing, of course, as time goes by. So Theta is one to keep an eye on. I fully imagine that by the time you guys are watching this video, we'll be somewhere in new all-time high territory for Theta, which, I mean, just has a rocket strap to it. Unbelievable performance, and at least in my opinion, not financial advice, but unbelievable things to come in the near future and the medium-term future and the long-term future as well. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm excited. Okay, in other news, we're now discussing that GreenPro Capital company that announced a $100 million Bitcoin fund. As you can see here, they continue to be rewarded in the market. As always, there's this mentality where you kind of have to buy the rumor and sell the news. So initially, yes, we did see a 100% price spike when the markets opened on Monday. That subsided a little bit. You know, we came back down somewhat pretty significantly, as you can see, from a high of about 2.4 stock price to now, or I should say earlier in the week, to about 1.58. So a pretty sharp retracement, because once that enthusiasm, once that bandwagon mentality subsides, yeah, prices also subside. But as you can see, since then, back up now above 2.0. So with a market cap that is still strongly above 100 million, 120.775 million. So now we're seeing a little bit of a long-term effect. This wasn't just a flash in the pan. So GreenPro Capital up a few more percentage points today. And this here on Bitcoin.com explains their philosophy, their strategy behind that $100 million raise. So the NASDAQ-listed GreenPro Capital Corporation has revealed plans to set up a Bitcoin fund using $100 million in borrowed funds, specifically. In addition to those borrowed funds, GreenPro, through its subsidiary CryptoSX, says it plans to use its own cash resources to acquire the digital asset. Good news, therefore, for GreenPro Capital. Continued good news for MicroStrategy. Still very strong here on a Thursday morning, up a little bit today, but maintaining some of those gains. In fact, adding to the gains at the beginning of the week when the markets opened very favorably for MicroStrategy, up very significantly given all of its involvement with Bitcoin. Again, here's my thesis. I'll repeat it again. Traditional companies, conventional ones in traditional financial spaces, they're being rewarded very clearly, very explicitly for their involvement with Bitcoin right now. I think it's more than a trend. I think it's more than just a fad, more than a flash in the pan. I think this is going to continue with time, and those companies that diversify strategically and use Bitcoin to strengthen their treasuries, use Bitcoin allocations in their balance sheets, I think these companies are going to succeed both in terms of their Bitcoin gains and in terms of investor confidence and their bottom line, and of course their market cap as a result. And there's more enthusiasm. Van Eck, you may have heard about them from our previous reporting on ETF. This is a little while ago now that we covered sort of more ETF news. It has somewhat fallen out of fashion, but now all of a sudden it's back as a discussion point here. Van Eck is once again proposing an ETF for Bitcoin. Pretty encouraging, and I think it makes sense. I think we have to keep proposing ETFs, Van Eck or otherwise, until it gets pushed through. There's no reason not to. So as 2020 draws to a close, one of the prior proponents for an exchange-traded fund, an ETF based on Bitcoin, is trying again. Van Eck has submitted an application to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for the Van Eck Bitcoin Trust. And if you ask most people, an ETF is seen as advantageous because it trades on the stock market, much like shares in popular companies such as Apple and Microsoft. Van Eck has previously proposed ETFs, withdrawing its most recent application in September of last year, 2019. At the time, the company said it remained committed to an exchange-traded product. I think now, technically I don't think anything has changed too significantly, but if you look at the public sentiment, if you look at the way in which Bitcoin is viewed, the zeitgeist is changing right now. Bitcoin has institutional support. It has enthusiasm on its side. It has increased, in my opinion, legitimacy on its side after this kind of phoenix-like resurrection here. So many people discounted Bitcoin. Now, all of a sudden, it's doing very, very well once again, and arguably has even a much bigger and much brighter future ahead of it. So perhaps now we have the momentum necessary to kind of push through a Bitcoin ETF. I think that's very good news indeed. If you'd like to read more about it at a technical level, we'll link to the documentation here on sec.gov. This can be found in the description below. United States Securities and Exchange Commission Form S1. This is the registration statement, again, for the Van Eck Bitcoin Trust. Okay, let's finish up the video here with some very encouraging metrics, year in review style. Michael Saylor here of MicroStrategy. Bitcoin is the solution. Everything else is just noise. Quoting here this tweet from a few hours ago, Bitcoin is 2020's best performing institutional asset. Citing here some Messari information, some Messari research statistics. So Bitcoin, as you can see here, change in market value of asset classes by percentage. We're talking 2020 performance. Bitcoin, 318%. That's compared to gold, which was just 28% this year. Bonds held by non-bank, 21. Bonds at 20. Cash is one I don't understand, and maybe those that are more financially or economically minded can explain how cash went up 16%. Does cash, just not by its inflationary nature, always decrease as a standard of measure, as default? I'm not sure. So whatever that means, cash, nevertheless, up 16%. Equities, 15%. Total debt, 12%. Private assets, 9%. And then you had a couple of asset classes that were actually negative, so DXY and WTI crude oil. Pretty impressive for Bitcoin then to be ahead of all of these. The only one, to my knowledge, in a popular sense, of course, there are probably some penny stocks that outperformed Bitcoin, but the only significant asset that outperformed Bitcoin in 2020 has been Tesla, actually, because Tesla, similarly to Bitcoin, just cratered in mid-March of 2020. Very, very negative price performance, but Tesla actually went up many, many, many times, approximately tenfold, which is huge, and I don't know if that's sustainable in the long term. But to their credit, Tesla did outperform Bitcoin in 2020. I think the tables are going to turn personally in 2021, but that's just me. Nevertheless, kudos to Tesla. Very impressive. Business today here, BT_India. Bitcoin has delivered over 300% returns, while gold has delivered only 27.4 up until the 30th of December 2020. As you can see here, Bitcoin shines more than gold and silver. Take a look at those numbers. And many people are taking note, many people including mega whales. So this very interesting observation here to close things off on CoinDesk. The number of people holding lots of Bitcoin surges in rare so-called whale spawning season. This from today, the 31st of December. Large investors continue to accumulate Bitcoin, possibly putting upward pressure on the cryptocurrency's price. Definitely. So here's the thing. The number of whale entities, clusters of crypto wallet addresses held by a single network participant holding at least 1,000 Bitcoin, rose to a new record high of 1,994 on Wednesday, and the previous peak was 1,969, reached in 2016. So that was surpassed on the 18th of December this year. This is all according to data from Glassnode. The metric has increased by over 16% this year and 7.3% this quarter alone. Bitcoin's price has rallied, of course, by over 300%, as we just saw in 2020, and 160% between October and December. And at press time, the leading cryptocurrency is changing hands at over $28,800 per Bitcoin. That's also the same as the time of this recording. That's after reaching an all-time high, as we all know, and as we discussed, of over $29,000 on Wednesday, as per CoinDesk 20 data. A pretty encouraging sign, if you ask me. Of course, this kind of stuff is always open to interpretation, but I think it's good to see that, generally speaking, the wealthiest kind of demographics of the Bitcoin space understand what's happening, understand the value, and are hoarding, as it were, in anticipation of what is to come. So that is about it for this 31st of December, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army, this New Year's Eve. We're going to have a little bit of thoughts and comments on 2020, a look back at the year that was. I'll post that tomorrow. But in the meantime, I wish you all a very, very happy and a very, very safe New Year's Eve, a great, healthy, prosperous, and happy start to 2020. Of course, guys, if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, share, hit the bell to receive notifications. Let's all keep an eye on Bitcoin to see whether or not it hits 30K tonight, but don't be disappointed if it doesn't. It is only just a matter of time. It's going to happen at some point. That is pretty much a guarantee, and it's pretty much inevitable. So best of luck if you do choose to invest. Stay safe, everybody, both in terms of what's happening right now in the world and in terms of perhaps your celebrations tonight. Be safe. Have a great start to the new year. We hope to see you again soon in our next video in 2021. Take care.